الإحسان. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل النقام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تغير النعام. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تحبس الدعاء. اللهم اغفر لي الذنوب التي تنزل البلاء. اللهم اغفر لي كل ذنب أذنبته وكل خطيئة أخطأتها. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك بذكرك وأستشفع بك إلى نفسك وأسألك بجودك أن تدنيني من قربك وأن توزعني شكرك وأن تلهمني ذكرك. اللهم إني أسألك سؤال خاضع متذلل خاشع أن تسامحني وترحمني وتجعلني بقسمك راضيا قانعا وفي جميع الأحوال متواضعا. اللهم وأسألك سؤال من اشتدت فاقته وأنزل بك عند الشدائد حاجته وعظم فيما عندك رغبته. اللهم عظم سلطانك وعلى مكانك وخفي مكرك وظهر أمرك وغلب قهرك وجرت قدرتك ولا يمكن الفرار من حكومتك. اللهم لا أجد لذنوبي غافرا ولا لقبائحي ساترا ولا لشيء من عملي القبيح بالحسن مبدلا غيرك. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك وبحمدك. ظلمت نفسي ظلمت نفسي وتجرأت بجهلي وسكنت إلى قديم ذكرك لي ومنك علي. اللهم مولاي كم من قبيح سترته وكم من فادح من البلاء أقلته وكم من عثار وقيته وكم من مكروه دفعته وكم من ثناء جميل لست أهلا له نشرته. اللهم عظم بلائي وأفرط بي سوء حالي وقصرت بي أعمالي وقعدت بي أغلالي وحبسني عن نفعي بعد آمالي وخدعتني الدنيا بغرورها ونفسي بجنايتها ومطالي يا سيدي. فأسألك بعزتك ألا يحجب عنك دعائي سوء عملي وفعالي ولا تفضحني بخفي ما اطلعت عليه من سري ولا تعاجلني بالعقوبة على ما عملته في خلواتي من سوء فعلي وإساءتي ودوام تفريطي وجهالتي وكثرة شهواتي وغفلتي. وكن اللهم بعزتك لي في الأحوال كلها رؤوفا، وعلي في جميع الأمور عطوفا. إلهي وربي من لي غيرك، أسأله كشف ضري والنظر في أمري. إلهي ومولاي، أجريت علي حكما اتبعت فيه هوى نفسي، ولم أحترس فيه من تزيين عدوي، فغرني بما أهوى وأسعده على ذلك القضاء، فتجاوزت بما جرى علي من ذلك بعض حدودك، وخالفت بعض أوامرك، فلك الحجة علي في جميع ذلك، ولا حجة لي فيما جرى علي فيه قضاؤك، وألزمني حكمك وبلاؤك. وقد أتيتك يا إلهي بعد تقصيري وإسرافي على نفسي، معتذرا نادما منكسرا مستقيلا مستغفرا منيبا مقرا مذعنا معترفا، لا أجد مفرا مما كان مني ولا مفزعا أتوجه إليه في أمري غير قبولك عذري وإدخالك إياي في سعة من رحمتك. اللهم فاقبل عذري وارحم شدة ضري، وفكني من شد وثاقي. يا رب ارحم ضعف بدني ورقة جلدي ودقة عظمي. يا من بدأ خلقي وذكري وتربيتي وبري وتغذيتي، هبني لابتداء كرمك وسالف برك بي يا إلهي وسيدي وربي. أتراك معذبي بنارك بعد توحيدك وبعد ما انطوى عليه قلبي من معرفتك ولهج به لساني من ذكرك واعتقده ضميري من حبك، وبعد صدق اعترافي ودعائي خاضعا لربوبيتك، هيهات أنت أكرم من أن تضيع من ربيته أو تبعد من أذنيته أو تشرد من آويته أو تسلم إلى البلاء من كفيته ورحمته. وليت شعري يا سيدي وإلهي ومولاي أتسلط النار على وجوه خرت لعظمتك ساجدا، وعلى ألسن نطقت بتوحيدك صادقا، وبشكرك مادحا، وعلى قلوب اعترفت بإلهيتك محققة، وعلى ضمائر حوت من العلم بك حتى صارت خاشعة، وعلى جوارح سعت إلى أوطان تعبدك طائعة، وأشارت باستغفارك مذعنا ما هكذا الظن بك، ولا أخبرنا بفضلك عنك يا كريم يا رب، وأنت تعلم ضعفي عن قليل من بلاء الدنيا وعقوباتها وما يجري فيها من المكاره على أهلها، على أن ذلك بلاء ومكروه قليل مكثوه يسير بقاؤه قصير مدته، فكيف احتمالي لبلاء الآخرة وجليل وقوع المكاره فيها، وهو بلاء تطول مدته ويدهم مقامه ولا يخفف عن أهله، لأنه لا يكون إلا عن غضبك وانتقامك وسخطك، وهذا ما لا تقوم له السماوات والأرض يا سيدي، فكيف بي وأنا عبدك الضعيف الذليل الحقير المسكين المستكين. يا إلهي وربي وسيدي ومولاي، لأي الأمور إليك أشكو، ولما منها أضج وأبكي، لأليم العذاب وشدته أم لطول البلاء ومدته، فلئن صيرتني للعقوبات مع أعدائك وجمعت بيني وبين أهل بلائك وفرقت بيني وبين أحبائك وأوليائك، فهبني يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي وربي، صبرت على عذابك فكيف أصبر على فراقك. وهبني يا إلهي صبرت على حر نارك فكيف أصبر على النظر إلى كرامتك، أم كيف أسكن في النار ورجائي عفوك. فبعزتك يا سيدي ومولاي أقسم صادقا لئن تركتني ناطقا لأضجن إليك بين أهلها ضجيج الآمنين، ولأصرخن إليك صراخ المستصرخين، ولأبكين عليك بكاء الفاقدين، ولأنادينك أين كنت يا ولي المؤمنين، يا غاية آمال العارفين، يا غياث المستغيثين، يا غياث يا حبيب قلوب الصادقين ويا إله العالمين. أفتراك سبحانك يا إلهي وبحمدك تسمع فيها صوت عبد مسلم سجن فيها بمخالفته وذاق طعم عذابها بمعصيته وحبس بين أطباقها بجرمه وجريرته، وهو يضج إليك ضجيج مؤمل لرحمتك ويناديك بلسان أهل توحيدك ويتوسل إليك بربوبيتك. يا مولاي فكيف يبقى في العذاب وهو يرجو ما سلف من حلمك؟ أم كيف تؤلمه النار وهو يأمل فضلك ورحمتك؟ أم كيف يحرقه لهيبها وأنت تسمع صوته وترى مكانه؟ أم كيف يشتمل عليه زفيرها وأنت تعلم ضعفه؟ أم كيف يتقلقل بين أطباقها وأنت تعلم صدقه؟ أم كيف تزجره زبانيتها وهو يناديك يا ربه؟ أم كيف يرجو فضلك في عتقه منها فتتركه فيها؟ هيهات ما ذلك الظن بك، ولا المعروف من فضلك، ولا مشبه لما عاملت به الموحدين من برك وإحسانك. فباليقين أقطع لولا ما حكمت به من تعذيب جاحديك وقضيت به من إخلاد معانديك لجعلت الأرض كلها بردا وسلاما. لجعلت النار كلها بردا وسلاما، وما كانت لأحد فيها مقرا ولا مقاما، لكنك تقدست أسماؤك. أقسمت أن تملأها من الكافرين من الجنة والناس أجمعين، وأن تخلد فيها المعاندين. وأنت جل ثناؤك قلت مبتدئا وتطولت بالإنعام متكرما. أفمن كان مؤمنا كمن كان فاسقا لا يستوون. إلهي وسيدي فأسألك بالقدرة التي قدرتها وبالقضية التي حتمتها وحكمتها وغلبت من عليه أجريتها أن تهب لي في هذه الليلة وفي هذه الساعة كل جرم أجرمته، كل جرم أجرمته، وكل ذنب أذنبته، وكل قبيح أسررته، وكل جهل عملته، كتمته أو أعلنته، أخفيته أو أظهرته، وكل سيئة أمرت بإثباتها الكرام الكاتبين الذين وكلتهم بحفظ ما يكون مني، وجعلتهم شهودا علي مع جوارحي، وكنت أنت الرقيب علي من ورائهم والشاهد لما خفي عنهم، وبرحمتك أخفيت وبفضلك سترت، وأن توفر حظي من كل خير تنزله أو إحسان فضلته أو بر نشرته أو رزق بسطته أو ذنب تغفره أو خطأ تستره. يا ربي يا ربي يا رب يا إلهي وسيدي ومولاي ومالك رقي، يا من بيده ناصيتي، يا عليما بضري ومسكنتي، يا خبيرا بفقري وفاقتي، يا ربي يا ربي أسألك بحقك وقدسك وأعظم صفاتك وأسمائك أن تجعل أوقاتي من الليل والنهار بذكرك مغمورة، وبخدمتك موصولة، وأعمالي عندك مقبولة، حتى تكون أعمالي وأورادي كلها وردا واحدا، وحالي في خدمتك سرمدا. يا سيدي يا من عليه معولي، يا من إليه شكوت أحوالي، يا ربي يا ربي قو على خدمتك جوارحي، واشدد على العزيمة جوانحي، وهب لي الجد في خشيتك، والدوام في الاتصال بخدمتك، حتى أسرح إليك في ميادين السابقين، وأسرع إليك في المبادرين، واشتاق إلى قربك في المشتاقين، وأدنو منك دنو المخلصين، وأخافك مخافة الموقنين، واجتمع في جوارك مع المؤمنين. اللهم ومن أرادني بسوء فأرد، ومن كادني فكد، واجعلني من أحسن عبيدك نصيبا عندك، وأقربهم منزلة منك، وأخصهم زلفة لديك، فإنه لا ينال ذلك إلا بفضلك. وجد لي بجودك، واعطف علي بمجدك، واحفظني برحمتك، واجعل لساني بذكرك لهجا، وقلبي بحبك متيما، ومن علي بحسن إجابتك، وأقلني عثرتي واغفر زلتي، فإنك قضيت على عبادك بعبادتك، وأمرتهم بدعائك، وضمنت لهم الإجابة، فإليك يا ربي نصبت وجهي، وإليك يا ربي مددت يدي، فبعزتك استجب لي دعائي، وبلغني مناي، ولا تقطع من فضلك رجائي، واكفني شر الجن والإنس من أعدائي، يا سريع الرضا يا سريع الرضا، اغفر لمن لا يملك إلا الدعاء، فإنك فعال لما تشاء، يا من اسمه دواء وذكره شفاء، وطاعته غنى، ارحم من رأس ماله الرجاء، وسلاحه البكاء، يا سابغ النعم، يا دافع النقم، يا نور المستوحشين في الظلام يا عالما لا يعلم صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بما أنت أهله وصلى الله على رسوله والأئمة الميامين من آله وسلم تسليما كثيرا.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. So next we will have Brother Maitham, inshallah, is going to recite Ziyarat Waritha. Please recite salawat for him.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صحبة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. السلام عليك يا وارث أمير المؤمنين ولي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن محمد المصطفى. السلام عليك يا ابن علي المرتضى. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. السلام عليك يا ابن خديجة الكبرى. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن الثارح والوتر الموتور. أشهد أنك قد أقمت الصلاة وآتيت الزكاة وأمرت بالمعروف ونهيت عن المنكر وأطعت الله ورسوله حتى أتاك اليقين. فلعن الله أمة قتلت ولعن الله أمة ظلمت ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله أشهد أنك كنت نورا في الصلاب الشامخة والأرحام المطهرة. لم تنجسك الجاهلية بأنجاسها ولم تلبسك من مدلهمات ثيابها. وأشهد أنك من دعائم الدين وأركان المؤمنين. وأشهد أنك الإمام البر التقي الرضي الذكي الهادي المهدي. وأشهد أن الأئمة من ولد كلمة التقوى وأعلام الهدى والأروة الوثقى والحجة على أهل الدنيا. وأشهد الله وملائكته وأنبياءه ورسله أني بكم مؤمن وبإيابكم مؤقن بشرائع ديني وخواتيم عملي وقلبي لقلبكم سلم وأمري لأمركم متبع. صلوات الله عليكم وعلى أرواحكم وعلى أجسادكم وعلى أجسامكم وعلى شاهدكم وعلى غائبكم وعلى ظاهركم وعلى باطنكم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي هلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى الضحى بالحسين. زيارة حضرت علي أكبر عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن نبي الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن الحسين الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها الشهيد وابن الشهيد. السلام عليك أيها المظلوم وابن المظلوم. لعن الله أمة قتلت، ولعن الله أمة ظلمت، ولعن الله أمة سمعت بذلك فرضيت به. زيارة حضرت عباس عليه السلام. السلام عليك أيها العبد الصالح المطيع لله ولرسوله ولأمير المؤمنين والحسن والحسين صلى الله عليه وسلم. السلام عليك يا أبا الفضل العباس بن أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا ابن السيد الوصيين. السلام عليك ورحمة الله وبركاته. زيارة جميع الشهداء كربلاء. السلام عليكم يا أولياء الله وأحباءه. السلام عليكم يا أسفياء الله وأوداءه. السلام عليكم يا أنصار دين الله وأنصار نبيه وأنصار أمير المؤمنين وأنصار فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي محمد بن الحسن الولي الناصح. السلام عليكم يا أنصار أبي عبد الله الحسين الشهيد المظلوم صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. بأبي أنتم وأمي طبتم وطابت الأرض التي فيها دفنتم وفزتم فوزا عظيما. يا ليتني كنت معكم فأفوز معكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
Jazakallah, brother. Next, we will have the oath ceremony for a couple of managers. So please invite Malana to come forward. Do those together?
Yeah, I think we can do that together. Are they? Okay.
You should,
Yes.
stand by the mic. We want to-
Oh my God. Inshallah. I'll read inshallah. And then we'll do that. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I, Jafar Mohsin, bear witness that there is no God but Allah. Bear witness that there is no God but Allah. And that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the last messenger of Allah. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the last messenger of Allah. And that Imam Ali alayhi salam is the right successor of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that Imam Ali alayhi salam is the right successor of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I, Jafar Mohsin, do solemnly swear under no binding or compulsion that I will serve the community of the Islamic Center of Zahra and will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the Islamic Center of Zahra to the best of my ability. And will preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of Islamic Center of Zahra to the best of my ability. In making my judgments related to the Islamic Center of Zahra I will adhere to the teachings of the Quran and the Sharia of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as codified by Ma'sumin alayhi salam. I will not represent the interests of any other organization or group. And work solely for the benefit of the ICZ in my capacity as a manager of Islamic Center of Zahra. and work solely for the benefit of Islamic Center of Zara in my capacity as the manager of Islamic Center of Zara. I will faithfully and impartially perform the responsibilities as manager of Islamic Center of Zahra. I will faithfully and impartially perform the responsibilities as a manager of Islamic Center of Zara to the best of my ability. To the best of my ability. I will serve the community by working with ICZ board. I will serve the community by working with ICZ board, resident alim, and community members. I will uphold and support the Constitution of ICZ. I will uphold and support the Constitution. Uphold and support the Constitution of ICZ and its bylaws. And shall try my best to attend all ICZ programs. And shall try my best to attend all ICZ programs. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in helping me in adherence to this oath. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in helping me in adherence to this oath. Inshallah.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل.
Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. It's getting a little chilly. We weren't joking about bringing extra layers. I forgot to bring my jacket, but inshallah we'll be okay for next week.
We have the extra layer already.
So I invite Maulana Sayyid Hadi Yasin, inshallah, for the speech. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
They need to use this.
This is for namaz.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد
وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى لقاء يوم الدين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
May Allah inshallah bless you. Alhamdulillah, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this tawfiq and opportunity. Inshallah, gradually, we're getting closer to, inshallah, insight and getting insight. And inshallah, resuming these sessions, inshallah, all considering the health of, inshallah, everyone in the community, inshallah, moving forward. It's, inshallah, the recommendations of health authorities. May Allah, inshallah, keep you all healthy, inshallah, safe, and increase your tawfiqat and your iman, inshallah, and ma'af. Recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. As you know, we started a course in the topic of history of Islam, and inshallah, trying to have a review of the whole era of Islam from the beginning, as last session we started, moving forward, inshallah. Depends on how long it takes. The history of Rasulullah, going back, inshallah, going to the history of, inshallah, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Hassan al-Muhsin, all the way. We might need some, for example, this break between these courses, because it takes a long time probably. But inshallah, in the first course, we'll try to go with the history of Rasulullah, the beginning of Islam, which this is actually the recommendation of Ahlul Bayt themselves, that you need to look at the history. There's some benefits here. You need to look at the history to learn what happened to you, people who lived in the past before you. As you look at the Quran, keep referring Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to look at the people before him, to to look at Musa, to look at Isa, to look at Ibrahim, to look at Nuh, to look at Qawm Ad, Qawm Lut, Qawm Thamud, keeps telling him to look. When Allah is referring to the past, there's hikmah and reason. Allah is telling him to look at the history, right? So for someone like Rasulullah, so wise, aql kul, insan kamil, he has to look at the history. There are many actually, some points in the history that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling Rasulullah, look back, learn something from the past. Even if you are the last prophet, the best prophet, but there are lessons in the life of past prophets and in the life of their communities. There's no difference between us and past communities, right? So we have a community. Prophets, they had a community, they had their own communities. Therefore, it is important to look and see what happened. The other benefit of that is that we realize our future. By looking in the past, you determine your future. By looking in the past, you see that these people, they followed this path. They treated their prophets this way. They treated their the authorities and the scholars this way. This is what happened to them. There's no difference between us. If we do the same thing, what happened to the history of Islam, Rasulullah, to the history of Imam Hussein, is going to happen to our own time as well, right? So there are some principles in this world, no matter where you live, when you live, in what era, you will be experiencing those principles. For example, justice, right? Look all the way from the beginning. The first king who was the ruler and then was not a just king, right? What happened to them? How people treated them. And finally, look at the Pharaoh. None of the kings in the entire of the world is going to reach the level of Pharaoh, right? But he reached the level that he claimed that I'm God. So what happened to him? How humiliated he became at the end of his life, right? So, and then to his ummah, looking at the history, the benefit, it's so clear that if we follow that path, this is going to happen to us what happened to Pharaoh, the ummah of Pharaoh, to followers of Pharaoh, right? Because some people, and I said that before, some people at the time of Bani Israel and Hazrat Musa, they were with Hazrat Musa, but their heart with Pharaoh as well. We're waiting for the Maw'ud, for the savior to come, which is Musa, right? But meantime, Pharaoh and the money and let's be with them. Exactly the same history happened at the time of Amir al-Mu'mineen. There were some people among the companions, not the companions, just people around Amir al-Mu'mineen, says, why you go with the salat of Amir al-Mu'mineen, but the food of Muawiyah? That's clear why, right? The same thing with Imam Hussein, beef between the Yazid, right? Over and over, our time, the same thing. You can see people right now in your conversation, how they talk about the heads of zulm and oppressors, right? We're living somewhere, we have to be this way. Exactly the same thing, same category, different time, different people. Therefore, history will teach us and tell us and learn. We'll learn from it, inshallah, what we need to do in order to move forward. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. But also, you need to let me share my screen. So another benefit I would say is this, that many of us, we have mixed, wrong understanding of history. Because many of us, the history that we know goes back to our childhood. Someone on the member somewhere, we don't know who he was, or Zakir or Maulana somewhere said something. We didn't check the authenticity of that. This is really true, right? Did Prophet Muhammad did this? Did Amir did this? No, it's stuck in our mind. Our fathers told us, we're going to tell our children without doing any research and tahqiq about that, right? So going once to the series of, history with authentic books, inshallah, that we have from the best sources, and inshallah, multiple sources, would help us to what? Once forever have a clear, inshallah, and authentic understanding of the history, inshallah. So for inshallah, from those who are seeing us online, they see the screen. You guys, inshallah, for next session, inshallah, we'll try to do the best, inshallah, to have the screen as well. But overall, last session we talked about the ancestors of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam go back to who? We know finally go back to Hazrat Ismail, to Ibrahim alayhi salam. we talk about, the fathers and grandparents of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in this part, and I went all the way to mention that Halima took Prophet Muhammad, kind of, there were some people, some women at that time were coming from the villages or the tribes around Mecca. They were coming inside Mecca to take babies for breastfeeding them, taking them out, and there was a source of income for them, and then to learn the true and pure natural Arab culture and the language. That was another. So when they were going, Rasulullah, when he came back after 5 years, he had a great fasih and the best part of the language, because the Badawi Arabs, they have the best language at that time when they had it, right? So they were learning the origin of language, and that was another way. So after 5 years, Rasulullah came back. We talk about it, how it was so blessings for Halima and his family, and what happens. When he came back after 5 years, before he was born, Rasulullah, I want you in this session, look at the chain that I'm going to narrate. What happened to this kid by the name of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? When he was not even born yet, he lost his who? His father, Abdullah, right? He was not even born yet. Of course, when there's no father, there's some challenges in the family. Although his family are the best family from Quraysh, well-known families, right? His grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, his uncle, Abu Talib, they're all among the best people, right? Famous people, but there are some hardship that happen. Before he was born, he don't have a father. I want you to look at this. In psychology, we say that when the structure of family is not there, the kids would be affected by that negatively. And that's true, by the way, 100% true, right? When there's some issues between couples and parents, issue will go to. Before he was born, he lost his father. And then when he came back from Halima, came back to his father passed away in Yathrib. What is Yathrib? Medina. Before the name Medina was Yathrib, right? So the father was buried where? In Medina. The family were in what? Mecca. When he came back, Amina, the mother, she was looking for an opportunity to go there, see the family and visit the grave of the father, the Prophet Muhammad's father. He went there with Ayman. They went there. Coming back, they were there for 1 month. Coming back at the age of 6, guess what happened? In the region called Abwa, his mother, 6 years. Look at this chain, what is happening, all right? So a 6-year-old, first trip, coming back, he lost his mother. Now there's no father, no mother. This kid, God knows what's going to happen to his future, right? No mom, no dad. I mean, who is taking the guardianship? Abdul Muttalib, the father, the head of Quraysh, very important person, the guardian at the age of 8. 2 years after that, he passed away. Look at the chain of tragedies, issues. In psychology, we say loss of loved ones has the highest emotional effect for human beings, the highest. And now he's so bonded with Abdul Muttalib, the guardian, supporters, at the age of 8, gone. This person, if there's not something to support him, shouldn't have a strong future. It's affected left and right. God, why me? I was born not having my father, 6-year-old and lost my mom, 8-year-old, my guardian. What's going on? Many people in this situation, they start complaining to God. We see that Rasulullah totally opposite. He became the best prophet and the best human being in the entire earth, right? And the universe, actually. Right? So look at this. What is helping him to be the best politician, the best spiritual leader, the best part of the society, the best father, the best son, everything that you want, the best of everything, right? The best servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It goes back to Iman of Rasulullah, the Tawakkul of Rasulullah, right? No matter what are the challenges, because our narration of history says analysis of history, right? No matter what is happening to us, look at this as a history. The
Prophet Muhammad was not, mashallah, come from the heaven, beautiful, everything is ready from the best everything, and now you, please, this is the crown, you become the prophet. Look at the history. How many tragedies and issues he faced. If I ask you why Allah wanted this to happen to him, what do you say? Let's make it neutral. Why do you think he has to face all these difficulties and hardship while he was young? What is the reason?
Make him stronger.
Make him stronger. How?
Able to cope with the trauma.
Being a prophet. Oh Muhammad, you're going to experience Shayb Abi Talib. You're going to be 3 years in the most difficult, part of your life. You see that few men, inshallah we'll talk about it, few men that had one date, one kujur to eat. Few men. There were sanctions against them, right? You're going to have difficulties, wars, people against you, throw stones at you, stone you, right? Break your teeth and your forehead. You have to be strong. You have to be powerful. You have to be patient. You have to be tolerant. If you're teaching, if you're raising your children, here's a very important part I want to say, and if you don't listen carefully, it's going to be tricky. Don't raise them with the full, easy, comfortable life. Never experienced any hardship, never felt hunger, never had lack of money, never nothing, never issues in life, never been sick. This person, I promise you, cannot be successful. Because the reality of the world is different. When they are alone, the hardship comes towards them, right? When they get married, the difficulties comes. Why are you talking to me and my wife this way? Well, husband, you're not supposed to talk to me, my father. I'm not saying the father should talk differently, but I'm saying that they should face the difficulties of life and see what does it mean to be cold and not having enough clothing? Right? Right now. What does it mean to be hungry? The food is there on the stove, or we're not eating it. It's very tricky, like as if someone doesn't say, oh, why you're torturing your children? It's a different point we're giving, right? Yes, we can buy like this. No, we cannot. Something that unfortunately in some areas, such as Bay Area, I've seen a lot of families, the children have challenges when they grow up being teenagers because they're being so pampered. Of course, everything is fine. Of course, it shouldn't be either side, too much aggressively, but let them experience things. As Rasulullah, he experienced this, and that made him this very, if you look from this angle, worldly, very bitter and difficult childhood, made him strong, powerful. Now you're threatening me. I've been threatened by life from the beginning of my life, right? So, and us ourselves as well. You know what we want? The majority of people like ourselves, we came to the United States looking for a beautiful, calm, no problems life, and then we're going to be successful this way. Actually, if we have our leaders have these challenges, we can't request a life without any challenges and want to get the best of everything, right? We will face some challenges. Depends on the level of iman, how we interpret those. If I'm walking, all of a sudden I don't understand, I trip here and I fall down. Astaghfirullah, who put this here? Well, you should have. I look at myself. There's a hikmah reason I fell down. Yeah, I shouldn't talk to that person like this. I shouldn't have treated my wife like that. That's why I'm falling down. Allah is teaching me something. Right? Do it this way. So, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Ghafar said, Alam yajadka yatiman fa'awa? Did he found you yatim, orphan, who took care of you, So therefore, why you've been picked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Because he proved he goes through this chain of difficulties, but he can turn to be the best person in the entire world, right? So he lost his father at the age of grandfather, Abdul Muttalib at the age of 8, and his, after his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, gave the guardianship to who? Abu Talib. Who is Abu Talib? The father of Amir al-Mu'minin, Imam Ali sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
The reason is this, that they are from the same mother. The mother was the same between Abdullah, the father of Rasulullah, and Abu Talib. The father is the same, of course. The mother is the same as well, biological siblings, right? So there's more connection here again when they wanted recommendation to someone to take care of. Anyhow, so another point here is this: Rasulullah grew up, become the prophet of Allah without the help of his mom and his dad. Actually, he is who he is because of himself, not because of the teachings of his Rasul Ummi, right? We'll talk about the Ummi. Not because he had a teacher, not because he had a father to teach him, not because he had a mother to teach him. He is Prophet Muhammad ﷺ because he is the Prophet, because he himself. No one is involved with his success unless Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and himself. His personality, his characteristics here that helps. We'll talk about Abu Talib. He's been oppressed a lot in the history by a lot of people. That, oh, he didn't become Muslim, or he was this, or was that, blah, 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 just because his connection to who? But a lot of lies, we'll talk about it. He was a generous, pious, great person who helped Rasulullah until the end of his life. Very good person, inshallah, we'll talk about him. At the age of 12, Abu Talib took him with himself to Damascus, Sham, in a business trip. When they were going, they reached an area, a temple by a Christian priest that his name was Buhayra. Buhayra saw, they were just taking care of everything. They invited, he's like, somehow he got so amazed by this kid, 12-year-old. And then he calls it, who's the father of this person, this kid, or who's in charge of this kid? He said, everybody looked at Abu Talib is in charge. He said, what's going on? I said, the Buhayra was very, very knowledgeable about Torah and Injil, the books, Old Testament and Bible. Very, very, knowledgeable about that. He said, I have read the books, the Old Testament and everything. I know the characteristics and the signs of the last prophet who will come and will guide, everyone, and human beings, and Arab. This kid is the last prophet. I see the signs. And then he said that, keep him away from Jews. Because if they notice who he is, his life would be in danger. Get the point yourself. Right? He's a Christian, he's warning them, they're all looking for him. In the books, they were telling who he is. Actually, we'll talk about it at the time of one of the things that Hazrat Khadijah, got married with Rasulullah, was that she heard a lot that there will be a person who lost his mother and father when he's young. He will marry the richest person, the richest woman of Arab. There were all signs that, she heard about this, that she was among other things that she heard. Anyhow, so that was another thing that happened. But look at the enemies all the time. Look for some point to forge and fake something. It said, you know what? Buhayra taught Muhammad about the history of prophets before. They want to somehow alternate the history somehow, So he said that's it. There are people, some scholars, non-Muslims, that they study, Islam and the history of Islam, and it doesn't make sense to them. They want to bring the azamat and greatness of Rasulullah down. So you know what? It's not that he learned from this guy. Well, there's some answers here. If someone tells you, let me actually ask you, what are your answers? So he said that he's the prophet, right? Maybe he taught him about Nuh and Musa, and he's a very knowledgeable person. Maybe he taught him about the history of prophets. That's why it's in Quran. So Quran is from him, not from Allah. How do you answer?
He just learned something is coming from something going to happen. It's not knowledge was only limited to convey the information. Otherwise,
let's say the limited knowledge. He taught him about the history of prophets. We believe no. We believe nothing from that guy, right? Why not? if someone brings his shorthand questions that he taught him, so he had a teacher. So therefore, look who he was, the Ustad, right? Therefore, before you go to him, you have to go to that guy, Christian guy. There's agenda behind this, right? So, how do you answer? Bismillah.
Passing by. It's not that study. You're just passing by.
He was passing by, okay?
The guy, yeah, there's something and we share it.
A good point. What if someone says, well, yeah, he was passing by, but because he said he's a prophet, stay with me, I'm going to teach you. They said actually, they're saying these things in the history.
Your question is about the knowledge only?
No, they're saying that he was taught by this Christian scholar about all these points. If we agree with that, Quran will be under question. Quran is supposed to be wahy, everything. So we know and we believe that it comes all from Allah.
Well, it's a completely different concept in Christianity regarding the Tawheed. They have the tasbih, like they believe in concepts which are different from the Quranic concepts. So they've corrupted some of them. So the response would be the belief in the Quran is different. It's distinct.
Very close. One of the answers is this. The history of prophets that Bibles and Torah are introducing to us is totally different than Quran. You know, in some part of Torah it says God came down and he wrestled with Musa, literally, or other prophets, and they put him down. Musa put him down, or Yaqub put him down, and says, what do you want in return? He says, okay, so don't say anyone. Okay, but call my Ummah Bani Israel. He comes down on the earth, he's like eating, he's invited to God, same God, right? And I was actually watching this movie, Noah. You know, there's by Christians actually made, I don't know exactly the name, but it's just like, I think the most authentic one that they created. And I was like, oh my God, look at how they insulting this great prophet of Allah. No, that he didn't care about anything. He was drunk and everything, and his family took care of him. It was like such a director. It's all wrong. And then I look and said, no, this came directly from Bible. So this guy is alcoholic. He doesn't understand what he's saying. Then he's a prophet and he's the leader of the Ummah. But that's totally different than what? Than Quran. That's one of the answers. Second answer related to what she said is that was a business trip. The business trip doesn't take, the whole caravan is with them, right? The whole time that they had was only around 4 months to go and come back once a year. The Quraysh were having the business caravan going back to the Damascus, Sham, and coming back. There's no time to do that. In 4 months, let's say in couple of months, do you think you can teach all these lessons to this, to this person, and this person to the details understand this, right? Buhayra himself is an old guy. That's why he learned all these things. The fourth answer is that he's a kid. You're teaching a 12 years old kid, and then you expect when he's 40 years old, he knows exactly details to details perfect. It doesn't make sense, right? So Rasulullah is, ummi, and no one taught him this things. Anyhow, the last one is this. If that actually happened, the Quraysh were telling everyone, this guy is lying, he's not getting it from God. We were there, this guy taught him, As one time Rasulullah was sitting with a slave who was Christian, and a lot of people come and says, he is teaching him once he's teaching. They were looking for excuse to tell him. Anyhow. So that was what happened in the history when he went and came back. Let's go to a different chapter, which is the marriage of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And during the time of his youth, when he was young, he became a shepherd, right? And almost all prophets, they experienced this. Again, there's hikmah and reason, wisdom behind what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does to these people, right? To all of us in this way. And he became a shepherd, and there's some reasons behind this, and I want to bring it back to our current time. One is that, according to traditions as well, when they learn how to guide the animals that don't even listen to them, they get experience how to deal with animals such as, worse than animals, such as who? Abu Jahl, Abu Lahab, The enemies, they're worse than Ahsham. بل هم أضل, worse, than animals, right? It's tough to deal with them. Brother, why don't you understand? You don't worship the stone. You don't worship the idols. It doesn't make sense. He has to have a lot of patience, right? Nuh, 950 years of da'wah, only 81 or 8. Some people say 8 or 81 or 80 people. That means even with 80, every 12, for example, something years, one person became muwahid. You know what that means? How much sabr and patience you have? They experience that. The second thing is this. Once Rasulullah, he was young, and he went to the bazaar of Quraysh, and he saw someone, a young person, is gambling. And he lost everything that he had. He lost 10 years of his life. Whatever it was, he bet. It's like 10 years of my life, my income, to you. Rasulullah became so upset, the pressure on his chest. He left Mecca, he went to the mountain. He didn't come back until night. What does it tell you? The environment, the society. We're walking in the streets. We're seeing a lot of things. You're driving by, you go to store, a lot of things. I'm not even saying haram or halal, forget about that part. Just diversities of going to social media, a lot of things, the lifestyle. We look at the face of this person and that person. We're sitting with this person and that person. We go to work. These are all the realities I'm saying. We might not be able to do anything about it, but it's still the reality, right? Hazrat Isa is saying, sit down with someone, sit down with someone who reminds you about who? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now I go sit down with whoever, it doesn't matter, doesn't know what is their status, their purity, taharat of soul, physically. Oh, sit down, hang out, brother, how are you doing? Work, come back. Like I said, we have to sometimes, right? Don't you think these are affecting us? Rasul is passing the street, the bazaar, and he's saying the guy is gambling and he's difficult for me. I can't tolerate it. I have to go out of the city. It's too much for me. This area is polluted. Sometimes we become so desensitized, we don't understand this. Sins, people know, they have a physical face. They have the realities. في بطونهم نار. Mal haram is like a fire. Quran says haram is a fire. Why is saying fire? There is something about similarities between them. We can't see it, but the reality, right? I always give this example. God forbid, God, see someone did something against innocent child somewhere. It's so disgusting that you feel how disgusting it is. You touch someone or did something. It's so disgusting to you that even think about it that someone in the news did something, right? But sometimes I've seen some things that we do. We're so desensitized about the fate, the reality of that. When Ahlul Bayt were seeing this, that's the difficult part of being Amir al-Mu'mineen, living in a society with all this people who they're not even practicing through Islam, and they're doing these things, and he's seeing the reality of them. I think they're so smart, Muawiyah and all the people who took this, but he has to tolerate it. Anyhow, so that's another way, being shepherd, and then help throughout the youth. Abu Talib, when he saw that Rasulullah is in this difficulty, this shepherd doesn't make that much money. It's a very difficult life, of course. Who is he? The Prophet Muhammad is the son of Quraysh, very important person, right? So he suggested to Rasulullah that, Muhammad, there's a lady by the name of Khadijah. She's the richest person, the richest woman of Arab. And she's looking for someone to be in charge of her business caravan to take, to whatever. And Rasulullah said, well, I'm not going to go ask her. She will hear if she wants about me and she will approach. I love that self-esteem and confidence. He's the shepherd and he's like, she has the confidence. When you have a value, stay with your values. Don't leave yourself there. People might not see your values around, but finally, if this is something that they want to benefit, they will find it. You be quiet. You keep your dignity. You keep your value. You mention something, but don't bring yourself down, right? There were many of the scholars, ulama, they had a lot of knowledge, specifically uluma qariba, supernatural power. They kept with themselves, couldn't find someone. I know some of them couldn't find someone. The knowledge was buried with them because they couldn't find a trustworthy person to teach them not to take advantage of that supernatural power that according to ayat. Anyhow, so Khadijah heard about this guy, Rasulullah, Muhammad, he's a very trustworthy person, and then, this and that, and she approached Rasulullah, and then, of course, said, I want to be in charge, and hired him with the double of the salary. He says, because of your fame and who you are, and you're famous of that, I'll pay you more, you'll be in charge, and there are 2 slaves I have, they're going to follow you. They told them, whatever Muhammad says, follow him, and then do the tijarat and business, come back because of your trustworthiness and honesty. Anyhow, Prophet Muhammad went to the business trip, came back with the Quraysh that once a year that went to Damascus, Sham. While he was going, he was seeing, for example, the area of Thamud, what happened to them, the azab of them. And here, there was a training for Rasulullah. These are all before he becomes a prophet, right? Let's say the age of 20-something, 25, before 30, stuff like that. So anyhow, so he came back with a lot of profit. A great business that he made. The what? When someone has the gene of being a leader and successful, doesn't matter, he's a shepherd once, but he'll be a great businessman next day, right? When the personality of leadership is there, teach your children to be what? To be successful, to be leaders, Otherwise, where do you see a shepherd next day become a businessman and great business? Because the usul and the principles for him are the same. And of course, the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here as well. What time is it? How long? 25.
27.
27?
Yeah.
20 more 7?
No, 42 is 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay, so we have on to that. Very good. All right. So, okay. So, okay, so inshallah. So here what happened is that when it happens a couple of times, the business trip came back and stuff like that, and Hazrat Khadijah kept hearing from his slaves and others about this young person, Muhammad. They were going, then the slave came back and says, you don't know about him. He's a great person. Someone came to him, there was a business in, there was a dispute, and the guy says, swear to Lat and Uzza, swear to this idol and that idol, and Muhammad said, I hate these names that you actually mentioned. He's an interesting guy, he's trustworthy, and he started putting the seed of love in the hearts of Hazrat Khadijah, right? That this person, and a lot of things. From another person, history says from the guy, Barakat ibn Nawfal, is another great, personality, very, don't say great personality. He's a very knowledgeable person about Christianity and others, but he knew a lot, and he told Hazrat Khadijah as well about this point about the last prophet the Akhir, someone that he will come and everything. So anyhow, the most important thing that she became interested in this person is the iman of Hazrat Khadijah. Nothing beside it. She's the millionaire, right? Who were the person who asked for her before? Abu Jahl. He is a billionaire at that time. He's very rich, right? Another person, big name, asked, and she rejected them. If she was looking for fame, for money, they were more famous. Muhammad is a shepherd. He doesn't have anything, right? What attracted her to him? The iman of Rasulullah and the iman of Hazrat Khadijah. So anyhow, so she actually proposed to Rasulullah, right? It's very interesting, the process going short. She sent someone, there are 2 narrations, she herself approached him, or the other one, which I think makes more sense, is that based on the culture, she sent someone else, and then they make a meeting between the families, like traditional, that what we do as well. They sit down together, they talk about this. Abu Talib started talking about the greatness of Rasulullah, and then the person, the Vakil of Hazrat Khadijah talked as well, and then they make the contract, and with 200 dirham or 400 dirham or 20 camels, that was the mahr. They made it, and the marriage happened, and they got married to each other. So, anyhow. They're about the topic of about the age and the children of Hazrat Khadijah and Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The different narrations, most famous one is saying that Hazrat Khadijah was older, was at the age of 40. She was born 15 years before Al-Fil. Hazrat Rasulullah was born at when? Al-Fil, the Abraham attack, right? So 15 years, which is probably around 25 years old and 40 years old. This is one narration. Some other scholars say, no, it doesn't make sense. He was older. No, blah, blah, what is it? But the most famous one is saying that what? She was older. We heard all of us. About the children is something might be different that you heard. Different narrations we have about the children of Rasulullah. The most famous actually is saying that he had 6 children from Hazrat Khadijah. 6 children, 2 sons and 4 daughters. Okay, sons, one Abdullah, one Qasim, both of them passed away before the Bi'tha, in the beginning of the mission of the Prophet. And then 4 daughters by the name of Ruqayya, Zainab, Kulthum, and Fatima sallallahu alaihi. Right? This is very famous that they had, and the girls were, they witnessed the Nubuwwah and the Bi'tha of Rasulullah. There are other narrations that are saying that no, these girls, besides Hazrat Fatima, they were the daughters of Khadijah before Rasul, because they're saying she was married 2 times before Rasulullah and both husbands passed away. So those are the daughters of, right? So anyhow, they are sisters to Hazrat Fatima, because when she passed away, Hazrat Fatima, she among the wills, the wills of Hazrat Khadijah, to Amir is that marry my niece, the daughter of my sister, so she can take care of my children. There is a sister to Hazrat Fatima, right? Either way, and then there is a niece, or name, I think Amama or something like that. That as I was saying, marry my niece, right? So anyhow, this is history. We don't have to struggle to prove they were daughters or not daughters, because some people just like fight over something that is not important. When you get to the history, even your culture is saying 100% this is how to see why it's so important. Either he had daughters or another 3 daughters or not. Okay, so what? Right? It's just, it doesn't change anything. Let's become so prejudiced. No one just has a Zahra. Maybe yes, maybe not. We don't know the history. Like different narrations. There's another son by the name of what? Ibrahim. From another wife, Maria Qibtiyya. Ibrahim passed away when he was young, few months old probably, or years old. He passed away 3 years old or a few months. He passed away. That some narrations saying that Jibreel came to Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he told him there is the decree from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One of these boys should pass away. Ibrahim, Hassan, or Hussein. Pick. Which one? The test one was that. I can't go with Hassan Hussein like this. Right? So anyhow, he passed away as well. This is about the children of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we come all the way to the topic of Bi'tha and the beginning of this. There are some important points here in the middle. From this time that he got married with Khadijah, what happened from the support of Hazrat Khadijah, we know that it's very short, few minutes, that she actually is the first woman became Muslim. Look at this, the first woman in the entire world who became Muslim. Look at this honor. Look at this honor, right? Hazrat Rasul, he loved Hazrat Khadijah. Even after she passed away, years and years, she was talking about her, how she helped and everything. Indeed, she had everything set, a luxury life. God knows what kind of Persian rug she had at that time in her house, and the curtains from silk and everything. She was a businesswoman, right? Gave everything, and her connections, and her networks, and her family, entire of her life for the sake of Islam and Rasul. And because the tradition says, the wealth of Khadijah and the sword of Ali made Rasulullah successful in this path as well. But the wealth of a lady, this is an important part of the history. At a time that no one even pay attention to the ladies at that time, right? A wealth of Hazrat Khadijah comes from the iman of her. Why are you doing this? If it's not from the iman, because some other people are trying to mold other wives of Rasulullah. Nah, Khadijah. Who could help Rasulullah more than Hazrat Khadijah, right? With no expectations. Others, when they became the wife of Rasulullah, he's Rasulullah, thousand and thousand follow him, right? But she came when there's nothing actually. When there's no Rasulullah, there's a shepherd who is coming out. Right? So that shows how someone with whatever they have can help not Rasulullah, the Prophet of Islam. What Hazrat Khadijah did contributed to the entire of Islam. Look at this. We said Sadaqiyya Jariyah. Please help the center. Inshallah, years and years is going to be helpful, right? What Hazrat Khadijah is Sadaqiyya Jariyah for the rest of Islam. Islam is alive because of what Khadijah is alive. Everyone become Muslim. Part of it is because of how she helped Rasulullah, right? And how Amir al-Rahman. But this is with one decision. One decision, I want to marry this guy. If you have a daughter, if you have a son, be careful what you're looking for. Or the family, or the fame, or the culture, or the language. Wow. She just looked for one thing, the iman of Rasulullah. Deeply into this, who she is. Khadijah Salamullah, truly Ummul Mu'mineen, right? That she became like that and she contributed. The first woman became Muslim. The support of who? When Rasulullah was so difficult for him, the entire of the society, it was coming to who to come down? To his wife. Khadijah, as Quran says, right? لَتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا. This taskunu ilayha for tranquility and peace is not just for us, it's for Rasulullah as well. As it was for Amir al-Mu'minin through Hazrat. He comes to her. Inshallah, this is our points we keep in mind. You see that now is a piece of history that proves to us all these teachings of Ahlul Bayt and Islam for us, inshallah, to be careful. Look for those opportunities to be successful, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammadin wa ajil faraj. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج والعافية والناس ومد في عمره الشريف وزين الأرض بطول بقائه واجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره وشيعته يا رحمن يا رحيم ثبت قلوبنا على دينك بحق رسول الله يا Allah hasten the zuhur of his son Imam Mahdi Ya Allah Ya Rahman Ya Rahim let us and our generation be inshallah among the true followers of Islam, Quran and Ahlul Bayt. Do not let anyone from us be against this path. Ya Allah Ya Rahman Ya Rahim let us be able to be among those who actively support the zuhur and inshallah witness the zuhur of our Imam. Ya Allah, those who have hajat and requests, give them khair hajat. Those around the world are being oppressed under difficulties. Muhammad wa Muhammad. Those who they're being blamed to be Muslim, to be followers of Islam and Ahlul Bayt. Provide opportunities for their freedom. Ya Allah, Rahman Rahim, those who are sick. Muhammad wa Muhammad, provide the shafa and a very fast recovery for all of them. Mentioned there is a boy, he is 19-year-old, he is actually in need of bone marrow transplant. His name is Rahil Madani. Let's recite 5 times inshallah and keep him in dua, and all those who are married marda and shafa of all marda inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه أما يجيب المضطر أما يجيب المضطر أما يجيب Ya Allah, بحق Muhammad wa Muhammad, to all those who are marda and specific marda of mu'mineen and mu'minat. Ya Allah, you are specific with this young man. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman Rahim, at the time of Azan, help us, let us get closer to you through the ma'arif of Islam. Those who passed away from this community, this ummah, send thawab and reward from our gathering to the soul, inshallah. Rahim Allah, man yaqra al-Fatihata ma salawat. Allah. We will have a prayer, inshallah.
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
اللهم صل على
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله. صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
Should I use the mic?
No, I'll do it. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن عليا نبي الله. أشهد أن عليا وأولاده المعصومين حجة الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. إقامة الصلاة إقامة الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. أستغفر الله وأسأله التوبة. أستغفر الله من جميع عبادة الله. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله لمن حمده الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. حول الله وقدرته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. الله أكبر الحمد لله لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته. سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد يا ربي. الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. السلام عليكم أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليكم الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.
الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. صل على محمد صل على محمد وآل محمد.
الله الرحمن اللهم نسألك من بلاد رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والنجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة ورضوان في دار السلام وجوار نبيك محمد عليه الصلاة والسلام اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك اللهم الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن عليا رسول الله أشهد أن حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله أستغفر الله وأسأله التوبة أستغفر الله من جميع ما سألت الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله الله لمن حمده سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله أستغفر الله وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله الله أكبر حول الله وقدرته بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم عجل لوليك سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله
الله لمن حمده الله أكبر.
سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله
الله أكبر أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو.
سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان
الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله
الله أكبر أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو.
سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله
الله أكبر
أعوذ بالله
الله الذي لا إله إلا هو.
سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده سبحان الله سبحان الله سبحان الله
الله لمن حمده الله أكبر.
سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد يا خير المسؤولين ويا خير المسلمين ارزقني وارزق عيالي من فضلك من فضل ومن
الله أكبر الحمد لله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عبادنا الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
أسجد الله صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك يا حبيب الله السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين يا وسيلة رسول العالمين السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة العالمين السلام عليك يا حسين علي الشهيد والشهداء وعلى تسعة المعصومين صلى الله عليه وصحبه وسلم ومن عليك وجان وشريك القرآن كما تمام ورحمة الله وبركاته صلى الله عليه وسلم.
You can put on that. I'm gonna put it on top of it. Thank you very much. والسلام ورحمة الله.
You're saying that this is mine. I don't know.
Inshallah.
Not the true owner. Allah is the true owner, but
मुझे भाई हेल्प कर दे हाँ यार तुम हाँ अब बोले सब तुम ले लो तो ऐसे के दे दी
एक का 4 ले ला भाई बहुत है
जी
हाँ चिकन
समथिंग
साइज तो अच्छा लग रहा है Same here. They're happy to be here.
Next week, it's go.
Oh, next week.
Assalamu alaikum. Good to see you. Excellent.
Yes, thank you.
Very good.
Great program.
Very good teaching. Allah bless you, inshallah. Thank you so much, sir.
Stop things as we're going outside. Stop so that
Khuda Hafiz, Khuda Hafiz. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ये मौसम से पूछना पड़ेगा.
Not sure. He got it.
You were not born. That's how you're staying outside like that.
मैंने कहा था कि कोविड ही मेरा फ्रीज हो गया
Leave this and be like
Yes, तरीका है यहाँ पे जरासीम मारने का तैयार करें
ये लाइव स्ट्रीम तो नहीं चल रही भाई
चल रही लग लास्ट पूरे बातें रिकॉर्ड हो रहे हैं
This is live on YouTube?
Yeah, I think it's live.
Stop कर दो. End for all.